Howard Ricklow, recently installed chair of the online gaming subcommittee of this division.
Oh wow.
And I remember in 2005 when we introduced the Gambling Act in the UK,
Yeah.
which made it illegal, and lots of lawyers became very excited. We were acting for people setting up platforms, etc. But it was illegal and criminal in the US for US citizens to bet online at all. So how did that affect us? Well, that affected us because the US made it very clear in their legislation that if you were involved in any way with setting up platforms or acting as a lawyer of a platform where there could be bets coming in from US citizens, next time you go to Orlando, you're going to be in jail. So very few lawyers were prepared to take the risk. At Credit Risto, there were loads of people doing it, and we even aligned ourselves with banks, and it was just too risky. So the solution for the US was it's illegal for our citizens to do it. Okay, you're in the UK. You may say we don't know where it's coming from, but it's being routed to Puerto Rico and all this sort of stuff. But in the case of India, you may say that the betting platforms aren't even in India. But if you get with the sort of sledgehammer that the US did, where people were so scared to be involved with any kind of betting platform, never mind the people making the bets, who you say can be anonymous, which I'm sure they can. But if they really wanted to put the fear of God into the platforms, they would say, if you are in any way associated doing the terms and conditions for an online outfit, you're going to find yourself in trouble wherever you are. Now, it could be that you say India hasn't got the same threat as the US.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the answer, but I just throwed it in because that's what happened in 2005.
And if this is not, if this can be stopped, the recording can be stopped, I can answer that. You know, the betting syndicate is too big, and they can actually influence legislations in most countries. I'm sorry I'm saying that, but that's the bitter truth. They're too big. Probably US could do it because they're the big daddy here. But I don't see many other countries being able to implement that kind of law and then enforcing it, because none of the other jurisdictions will actually cooperate with them. So I don't see that happening. So for the next 5 years, us lawyers will have a lot of work from other jurisdictions, maybe not from the US, but we'll have a lot of work from the...
I mean, the US is now...
Yeah.
You know, it's controlled, it's probably still...
Yeah, from the other jurisdictions, we'll have a lot of work because the money involved is obnoxious. I'm just quoting that. It's like, it's a money which can influence the Super Bowl game. It's the money which can influence a country's legislation. It's big. It's probably bigger than all the casinos in the world put together. That's how big the sports betting is.
Hi, I'm Claudio from Brazil. I don't want to change subject from betting, but I was interested in Natalie's point concerning intellectual property of data, and I'd like to ask you whether there are any discussion with the IPO concerning data taxes on sports industry or gaming in international sports associations like FIFA. I mean, because in the pharmaceutical side, there are a lot of specifications concerning data protection, but I can't remember whether there are any data protection related to sports facility in an international level.
No, there's no specific data protection sports law, but given that, well, most international federations, for example, are based in Europe, they have to adhere to GDPR, which is the data protection law in the European Union. So even if, even if you're not based in a European Union country, so most of them are actually in Switzerland, there's quite a few in the UK, there's one in Monaco, because by the fact of them doing business in the European Union, they have to adhere to this. It is taken very seriously.
Sorry, but the GDPR would be much more for personal data protection, but I consider the statistics of the game.
Okay,
itself.
so then, well, it depends what kind of statistics you have, right? So you could have statistics of the game that include maybe some kind of personal data of the player. Then, technically speaking, this would be covered by GDPR. Experience tells me that most federations, most leagues, most clubs would include in any regulations that they have that any data that comes out of a sporting event belongs to them. They have a legitimate interest in it, etc. But other than that, there is no kind of prohibition or other regulation to do with data emanating from a sporting event.
I agree with that from my experience, and ties back to our discussion earlier around official data. I think rights holders in sports sort of assume that they have the ability to commercialise that official data as the rights holder, but I think there are real legal risks around whose data that is. And I think certain playing groups, players, may think that if the data is generated from their own physical exertion, particularly some of the biometric data around like heart rate and more sort of personal data that's available, they might have an argument that that data is theirs and that they didn't consent to its commercialisation. I'm not sure if that argument would prevail. I think there's probably an equally good argument that by taking the field and performing in front of tens of thousands or even millions of international viewers, they've effectively consented to their performance data being commercialised, especially when they're getting paid, $300,000 a day. So I'm not sure that argument would prevail, but I think there's definitely some risk around how that data is handled, and one of the risks as well is the players claiming privacy.
Yeah, I think that's because from my understanding of the presentation, it's great. I think there is room for international harmonization for investor-related sports.
Yeah,
Very much agree.
that's true. See, this whole thing will move as one law. The betting, the sports, the data, everything there has to be new legislation because the ground has changed. In the past 5 years, that's what we were talking in the morning, that it's a different ball game, especially after COVID, as Natalie said. This is not the same sports that you used to see 5 years back. It's totally different. So there has to be new law, but of course, as I said, the governments are slow to enact. You're from Brazil, so you know how much time it would take to come up with a new law, and how much time would it take to get it passed from the parliament and then from the president, and then you know that you've just had a change of the president and probably he's not sworn in because the other guy wants to challenge that. So it will be ages.
Hopefully not.
So it will be ages before that comes to play, and so as I said, the loopholes are going to remain. But yes, litigation is good for lawyers, and let the loopholes remain. Let it not be clear. Let the language be ambiguous, and let the rules all be going down the drain, and everybody suing everybody. That's good for us.
Not good for the sport, though. Any more questions? Comments? No. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you all for attending this session. I hope it's been somewhat interesting, hopefully enlightening. Thank you to the three of you for your perspectives. I very much enjoyed learning about that. If you do have any questions or anything, I'm sure they'll be happy to find them. They'll be happy to answer. Myself likewise. Again, been a pleasure to talk to you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your time in Miami.
As I said, thanks everybody, because I know this is high time and the session was really early. I thank you all for coming in.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Natalie, for moderating this.
All right,
Thank you.
I would